Welcome to this week's episode of Pondering Play and Therapy with me, Philippa. And this week, my guest is Greg from Can I Go and Play Now? And Greg is an author and child advocate. He's passionate about play and autonomy for both children and teaching staff. He really enjoys imagination, playing, stories, and works within a school setting to help us as adults find our inner child, which sounds super exciting, Greg. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Not at all. It's lovely to have your company, Philippa, on a. Well, I think it's a sunny day. Yeah. No, it's really good to be here. Thank you for inviting me to come and chat with you.
Oh, that's amazing. Have you always been interested in play, or is it something that's developed over a lifetime?
Yeah, professionally, I started my teaching career actually in Key Stage 2. But before I became a teacher, I used to work in a scrap store. You have those up in the Midlands, I think, don't you? Scrap stores, where it was basically like a company that would go out and collect remnants like card, paper, plastics, bring them back to a warehouse, and then schools and settings could come and take those remnants and use them within their creative processes. They're all over the country. They're incredible.
Okay.
And I ended up working with one of those before I became a teacher, doing lots of different projects with local schools and PVIs and stuff. And as part of that, we went to Reggio Emilia out in Italy and immersed, had a 10-day immersion in their kind of pedagogy. And I was really inspired by it. And then when I became a teacher, like I said, I was in Key Stage 2.
So can you just say, because we get people who listen from all over the world, what age is Key Stage 2 in the UK?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So Key Stage 2 would be from 7-year-olds up to 11-year-olds. So year 3 up to year 6. So I started my career there, and then I was invited to go down into reception to go and work with the 4 and 5-year-olds, and never looked back. And it was there that I began to see that play was something absolutely incredible. And I just went on an adventure into it. Yeah, and I've never looked back. It's been a wonderful adventure to have gone on.
Okay, and you wrote a book following that. Did you do that while you were teaching, or was that something that you stopped teaching and then moved out to be an author?
Yeah, no, I wrote it while I was teaching. It almost killed me.
Did it?
Yes. Yeah, I used to have hair. No. Yeah, no, I wrote it while I was teaching, and it was a bit of a mold breaking book in a way, because most books published by academic publishers tend to be quite research driven, and whereas Can I Go and Play Now was just me giving my opinion about education. And they said that the publisher said, well, it's lovely, but we don't think this will really sell because we imagine it will sell maybe 200 copies. That's what it was earmarked to do. And then the government, when the book came out, the government released a document called Bold Beginnings, which was felt to many of us quite anti-childhood. And my book was there almost as a reaction to that.
Yeah.
So it was almost coincidence, and it just went, and lots of universities started then having the book on their reading list. And then I was invited to write other books as well. So I've written another one called School and the Magic of Children, and then another one called Love Letters to Play.
And these are books helping adults and guiding adults to think about actually when children play, why that's so important, and maybe why it's important for us to connect with our own sense of play and playfulness. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, they're for adults. And really, it's like they all three really are paying to childhood, and to, most importantly, to our own inner child. I believe that play is not what we do. I believe it's who we are. You cannot take it out of us. We are all programmed to play. It's the most powerful way to discover, explore, not just learn about the world, but learn about yourself. And so I'm a very strong advocate of that. And because I believe play is who we are, it never leaves us. Never leaves us. So that's why I believe in the eternal inner child. So I'm 53, But inside me, I have a little child called little Greg. And when I play with children, it's little Greg that emerges.
Yeah.
And it's that reconnection, dialoguing with your own inner child that I talk a lot about to liberate adults to go and be with children and go and play with them.
And that's something that Julie and I have talked about, is that, and I know that my other guests have talked about, this kind of innate playfulness that we are born with. So you're born curious, and that curiousness kind of turns into playfulness. I guess as babies, we start to just look at our hands and our feet, aren't we? But that then you need an adult to engage with that, though, don't you? To play. And sometimes, I suppose, with children that I work with, that playfulness hasn't been encouraged.
Yeah.
So they struggle to play. And I guess then we become adults that maybe have suppressed that part, or hasn't had it encouraged. Would that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think very naturally we do play. So I was reading the other day about, lots of people will probably know this already, but really when babies and very young children encounter the world, the first thing, let's say they encounter a toy, their first thought is, what does this toy do? And that's what they explore. The next step is, what can I do with the toy? And that's the curiosity bit. That's the playful bit. So what can I bring from inside of myself to do with the toy? And then it goes on to the next step, probably would be, what can I imagine this toy would do or be? And that's the bit that I'm very fascinated by. I'm hugely into the imagined world with young children. But I accept that there are some children that, in inverted commas, don't know how to play. But I do believe, as we gather around them as adults, if we can unlock our own playfulness, we are at least showing them what is possible. And that's a really important thing, to show what is possible.
And I guess then my whole job is about helping children to have a different experience. So they may not have had that when they were babies or when they were toddlers, but now through play, they can experience something different and can trust that process. Because I wonder if sometimes children and adults, we're in our head because that feels safest. It's almost in the knowing, isn't it? And play is in the being, is what I think. It's in our body, isn't it? We have to connect with something that is vulnerable, because we have to not be in survival mode in order to be able to play. And we are vulnerable in that position, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's about that whole, again, I talk a lot about how play is a way of resetting our own nervous system. It's something that, if we are in a state of chaos, if we can find those moments to bring the play out of us, it can slowly bring us back down into a calm. But of course, we have to be able to bring ourselves out of this sort of what I call chaos brain to be able to do that. And many children, unfortunately, can be in survival mode a lot because they've not had that nurturing adult, that it's all the attachment theory stuff. But I strongly believe in play therapy. And I believe that play therapy is also for the adult who's doing the play therapy as much as it is for the children, as is play with children. When I play with children in school, equally, it's not just for the children, it's also for the teacher, because all of us are carrying that inner child that does want to explore and is curious and wants to communicate that curiosity to one another, create stuff, invent things. We all innately do have that, some to a greater degree than others.
Do you think that play in schools has changed? Because this is a conversation that I've had with kind of many guests, really, about, has play changed when, certainly in the education system, but I even think at home, to be more cognitive, as in we'll play and there's a goal at the end of it to teach you something, to give you a piece of knowledge, rather than this imaginative free play. There's a difference, isn't there, between that structured play and free play. Have
Yes.
you seen a change in that over time?
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. And there's also, I think there's also less time given over to that as well. So it's changed, but there's also, there feels like within the child's day, there's less capacity within it
Mm-hmm.
for them to even experience that. There's many different reasons for that. You know, schools are under pressure to get outcomes, and that is an outcome that's driven by political dogma. And again, a lot of my work is anti that political dogma, because I believe in liberation from that.
So can you explain a bit
Mm.
more about that? What do you mean? What does that mean?
So, for example, in England, children are almost from day one, they have to then sit through a program of synthetic phonics, whether you're ready for that, or in inverted commas ready for that or not. It's subjected to you, and at the end of that year, it's decided whether you have reached good level of development or not. But in the EYFS, which is what kind of predicates the early years, it talks about the unique child. And to my mind, you can't have a unique child and then have something called good level of development. Those two do not go together. They can't, they're tautological. And I believe in the unique child. You are who you are. Children are not on planet Earth for the approval of adults. They absolutely are not. They are here to be themselves, and it's down to the adult to go in with to themselves, to their own inner child, to realize that they have a value for who they are, and together go on that adventure. So you give children the skills, but I don't believe in the whole kind of testing, standardization of childhood. I absolutely don't. I stand very firm against that. I accept it. I accept that it is in the world, but I do believe it is anti-childhood. I do.
Yeah, yeah. And that creates this very structured environment where there is
Yeah.
play. We have
Mhm.
play times and break times.
Mm.
But I guess the other thing that I notice as a practitioner, but also with some of the conversations I've had, is that if a child has been having a consequence, then it's those times that are removed from them, isn't it? Play times, break times, lunch times, or you have to stay in and complete your work. You'll have to. So it's not given the same value
No,
as maths or English or phonics or whatever. Do you think that's changed over time?
I'd like to think it had. I'd like to think so. Whether it has fully, I don't know. But those situations, very much, it's actually sounds strange to say, it's less about the removal of play and more about creating within the child that they feel that they have to do tasks for teachers and get their approval. And that's when play becomes a reward. I am, in inverted, good, so therefore I get to play. And that is a very powerfully damaging thing to tell children. Yeah, because I am play, that's who I am. And now I've got to mask that to get your approval so that I can then go and play. That is a very damaging thing to do to children.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope it doesn't go on. Play is not a reward. It absolutely
Yeah.
is not. But only
I
teachers
guess
will
it's
know.
even things like fiddling, isn't it? That is
Yeah.
play.
Yeah,
And
of
how
course.
many times I know at school I was constantly told off for fiddling. But
Yep.
actually, I learn better when I'm fiddling. But Julie definitely does when we talk. She's always got an array of things on her
Yes.
desk that she's playing with, really. But
Yeah.
you're told off for that, aren't you,
Yeah.
when you're little?
Yeah.
And we forget as adults that actually we need that too, a piece of blue tack or a pen that
Yeah.
you chew or a paper that you rip. Or that is play in a way, isn't it?
Exactly. And these attitudes, again, come from, so the attitude of you mustn't fiddle comes from the psychoanalytic theory of transaction analysis, which kind of talks about inside all of us, we have three ego states: the parent, the adult, and the child. I won't go into it, all of it, but one of the ego states is the parent ego state. And that's basically where it teaches us unfiltered messages. So, for example, a parent ego state message might be, buses always come late. Or if someone overtakes you, you say they won't get there any quicker. Yeah. So these messages are given to children and they just take them on unfiltered and then repeat them when they're adults.
Yeah.
And similarly, when we say to children, you mustn't fiddle, to me, that's an example of a parent ego state in the adult who's just repeating what they got told when they were little, just carrying it on, not thinking, does this child need to fiddle? Yeah, it's a bit like people say, you must be sitting cross-legged on the carpet. That is an example of an unfiltered parent ego state that's been given to the teacher, and they're now just repeating it unfiltered. It's really interesting. Transactional analysis is really interesting when you get into it, but it's that idea of the unthinkingness that you just say it. Yeah. So like when you walk down the corridor, you have to walk in silence. That's just a parent ego state that's been, because why? It's like and like you have to do homework, or there's a spelling test. This is all the stuff that's where people, it's just delivered to children. And then that, of course, goes to them. I must be still because I have to have the love of the adult is conditional on me sitting still.
Yeah.
And now I'm in chaos brain.
Yeah.
So I'm now going to fiddle even more. Whereas when I was teaching, children could sit however they wanted. I didn't care. All I want you to do is listen when I speak. And if I show you something, look, how you sit and where you sit. And teachers may disagree with that. I don't know. But for me, I knew my children. I knew what they needed. And I loved them for who they were. And they were not on planet Earth for my approval to sit cross-legged. They absolutely were not.
And I think your thing that you were saying about we just have these expectations, and I remember working with a nursery with a little boy who'd experienced high levels of domestic violence and lots of being moved around because mum who was fleeing. So this little boy had moved schools, he'd moved homes, he'd moved lots of things lots of times, and he was really struggling at meal times and he was really struggling at play. We can debate the fact that he was only 3.5, so play was actually what is play when you're 3.5. But one of the things is he had some particular cars that he really liked, and the idea is that he had to share. Now, sharing is my biggest bugbear. I can't abide the fact that we tell children they have to share, because I don't think they do. We don't share our phones. But I suppose that unconscious thing of he's got to share and these toys are for everybody. So my question was to them, you've got other red and black toys, red and black cars. Can he not have a little bag that he puts those in and those are just for him? So when he walks in the door, he's got his own cars and he knows he's going to have them, because actually he's lost his belongings over and over again. And he's just really worried he's going to lose those. Can't all the other children share all the other 500 cars in there and he had the 2 on their own? And it was almost like it was an alien, and they did it. But it was, I suppose what I'm saying is it was that unconscious thing of, no, we share. But once you have that different conversation, it was like, okay, we can try it. And for him, that was a big thing. And also, he needed his custard before his dinner, because then he was worried about not having custard. And often teachers will say, when you say things like that, yeah, but everybody will. And that often I will say, I don't think they will. Why don't you try it once? Because I'm guessing most of those other kids know that they're going to have the custard after their dinner and they're not worried about the custard. This little boy's worried about the custard, giving the custard first and then he'll eat his dinner. And he did. And but I suppose it's those, like you're saying, those messages of, we have to have our food first and then our dessert. Actually, why do we have to do that?
Yes. And that's where part of my work comes in, where it's actually about the inner child of the adult who's saying you can't eat your custard before, because that's something within you that you're responding to, maybe unconsciously, of, oh, it's wrong to eat your custard before. So it's not now a school rule. It's your fear of an authority, or your fear of getting it wrong, or and that's something that you have to address within yourself. Because actually, that, for me, that child eating their custard before they've eaten their main or whatever, that's now bringing their chaos brain now into a calm brain. And you can't learn if you're not in calm brain. You can't. It's impossible. You can sit children down and shove an hour of phonics down their throats, but if they are in chaos brain, nothing's going in. Nothing. Absolutely
if they're
nothing.
worrying about, am I going to get the custard? They're not going to learn anything, are they? But if they know they're going to get the custard first, it might open them up for a little, or the car or whatever.
And that's where, with these kinds of children, I believe that they are all children are here, that we learn from them. But what I found was, in my career, children who, let's say, hadn't had the greatest childhood, because it is also a privilege to have a childhood. Because I've met many children for whom, terrible things have been done to them. That it's that case of, I have to learn from you. I can't just bring this blanket, this is what we do, this is my expectation. I've got to meet you and say, who are you? What is it that drives you? What is it that drives me? How can these, how can we meet together? I'm hugely into companionship with children, hugely. I never really saw myself as a teacher. Yes, I'm teaching you, but you don't need a teacher. You need a companion. All children do. That's what they want. They want time together with loving adults. That's what they want. Along the way, I'm going to teach you a ton of stuff, and you're going to teach me. It's a very much like back and forth. Children's play teaches us so much, not just about the children, but about me and who I am. It's a bit like when adults come into let's say they come into a nursery, and there's paper on the floor, and adults will get but it's messy. And that is something within them, their own inner child, that's now frightened, because once upon a time they were told, you mustn't make a mess, because if you're mess, you're unholy, or you're dirty, or you're, do you see what I mean? So it just passes that message on to the children without taking that moment to go, who is it that's speaking here? Is it my frightened inner child, or is it my adult who has, in dialogue with my inner child, worked that through, and now I know it's okay for children to, along the way, have paper on the floor. It's okay. It really is. Do you know see where I'm going with that? It's just about that internal work that I think we need to do more of.
And it's our own, like you say, stories and
the life script
that are inside, aren't they? And what about for older children? So we're talking about the little ones. Does this translate when you're thinking about middle-aged childhood and into teens?
Absolutely. In my work, it might sound strange, I do talk about play a lot, but I talk more about what play is. I extrapolate what it is. So, for example, one of the things that play is invention. So children are constantly, when they're playing, inventing stuff, and they're creating stuff. And me personally, I believe that when you create, you're actually bringing something out of your soul into the world. That's what you're doing. So if you draw a picture, it's not just a picture of a dog. It's actually, you've brought something out of you down your arm and onto the page, which is why children don't like it. If you, not that you would do this, but if you went and ripped that, or throw it up, it's because they have put themselves in there. So I'm hugely into giving children open-ended possibilities for creativity, which is why I'm such an advocate of loose parts play and junk modeling, etc. And I talk very much about childhood. And when does childhood end? It does not end at 5. Does not end at 5. So if that's the case, childhood still needs open-ended creativity at the age of 11. It absolutely does. It's not about play, it's about open-ended creativity. So how are the adults giving that to children authentically? Not just, here's your table, here's your task, complete it for the teacher so that they can mark it, and now you've got back into that cycle of approval.
Yeah.
I write for your approval. I do maths for your approval. How can we, it's an open-ended question, by the way, how can we offer more childhood to children?
Mm. And would you say that in high schools as well, that
Yep.
bringing that to high schools,
Because
about
childhood doesn't
having
end.
that? Because I guess we get art and we get PE, physical education in the UK,
Yeah,
and those would be classed as their play, wouldn't they?
they
But do you
would.
think it needs to be more than that?
I do. I absolutely do. Because whose art?
Yeah.
Whose art is it? It's lovely, teach children skills. Absolutely, we want to do that. And we
Yeah.
want them to feel alive in the world and understand the creative world that
Mm.
lives all around us. And I'm sure, I know many schools do it. They do give children ample opportunities, but I still think we need to give them more.
But I
Even
suppose in
more.
some ways, those are then judged, aren't they? Your art is judged,
Of
your
course.
DT is judged, your PE. We were even doing exams in PE, and
Yep.
they're judged, aren't they? And I suppose what you're talking about is more of that. Just create something that
Just childhood.
just for you, because even
Yeah.
drama's judged. You
Mm.
you're passing an exam in it, aren't you? When
Yeah.
you're at high school.
And again, all these things like the teachers are under a massive pressure. Of course they are.
Yes.
Massive pressure.
Mm.
And it's not saying that it's easy to do. It really isn't, because a curriculum is a curriculum. But along the way, especially in primary school, especially, and many do, but we need more that
Mm.
give children abundant opportunities to be who they are.
Mm.
That's the most important thing. To my mind, you have one childhood and it stays with you for your entire life. And
Mm.
all of the messages that you get given as a child stay with you for your lifetime. And it's very hard to undo them as an adult. Very
Mm.
hard. And it can lead to a lot of damage because you were told certain things about yourself, which again is why I do so much talking about the inner child. Because we often think about the inner child as the adult, but actually the inner child is also within every single 4-year-old.
Mm.
It's in there. So how are we nurturing? How are we protecting? How are we making sure that children know that they are unconditionally loved? And that's
Mm.
my goal really in all my work, is how do children know? Because I don't have the answer for that. Only the adult in the room does. How do I
Mm.
make my 30 children feel like they're unconditionally loved? And that's on me to make sure that they are, whatever that looks like.
And you go into schools, do you, and work with the teachers and the
I do.
teaching TAs and that? And what does that look like? What do you do to support them?
Go in with a range of toolkits that I've created that I use in my own practice. I go and play with children, show them the kinds of stuff that I do, how I embrace the imagined world. I've written lots of stories to share with children. I have different characters that children can interact with as well. But primarily, it's very much about being with adults and showing them that it's okay. It's okay to play,
Mm.
because that's one of the biggest things, that you do have permission to play and that you actually do need to play. Even though I'm 53, I still need to play. Whatever that looks like, I still need to have it. I still need to have that wonder, leaps of imagination, creativity, connection. And it's no different now, because I still have that childhood brimming inside of me,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and the teacher's no different. So that's what I do. It's about how to make sure that you still are, in inverted commas, teaching, but we're doing it in a way through play so that children know that they are accepted and loved for who they are, not the other way around.
And how would that be different then? What would be different about that?
A lot of my stuff is around uh, through being with children, it's about showing them the joy, say, of mark making, the joy of mathematics. So rather than it being done through schemes, it's actually, as I'm interacting and being with children, I am sharing skills with them and they are sharing skills with me. There's still moments of direct teaching, but they're very short, sharp moments of teaching, very much pinpoint teaching to the unique children. So a lot of education's done through schemes, but schemes have never met those
So what
unique
does that
children.
mean? I'm not a
Oh,
teacher. What does
so a
scheme
scheme would be where
mean?
someone externally writes a program for the teacher to deliver to the children, and the
Okay.
teacher then follows that program. But
Yeah.
the writer of the scheme has never met those 30 unique children.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
already we're doing education to children, and we're also disconnecting the adult from their own creativity because they're just now in delivery mode.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
mine is much more about put the scheme down and be who you are and share the joy of who you are with the skills with your children and be liberated.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
because now,
you'd still be teaching
yeah,
whatever it is, your 2 times table
yeah,
or whatever, but you would, rather than do it through the way that most other primary schools are doing it, because they've got this book that says this is how you do it, you'd think about, actually, for my class, we could interweave it with this kind of
absolutely.
play or this kind of
Yeah,
creativity. And so
mhm,
I'm still going to teach you your 2 times table, but
yeah,
in a way that fits with me because I've developed it as the teacher, and you because I know you as my class.
because I know you. Yeah. And I would still teach the time, I would still do that direct teaching of the times 10. I would still do that bit, but the exploration of it would be done in a much more playful, creative, collaborative way rather than all the children just doing a task for me,
Yeah,
which is,
yeah,
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 because again, it might sound controversial to some, I don't know, but I, me personally, I don't believe children are here for the approval of adults.
yeah,
They're absolutely not. They're
yeah.
here to be loved, to be nurtured. And again, many schools and teachers do that. But I do believe we need to do it even
Mm.
more because as a society, we've become disconnected from one another, and we're crying out for we are absolutely crying out for more play, not
Yeah.
less. And you'll
And
note
that's,
that
yeah,
with your own role.
absolutely. And I think the opportunities for play is so less, aren't they? Play Nation, there's one in kind of England, Scotland,
Yeah,
Wales. They are really trying to drive that we have spaces that are designed for play, that are free play, because lots of our play now is very structured, isn't
yep,
it? Children go to dance, they go to swimming classes, they go to piano lessons, they go and do a lot of activities, but they the free play, that kind of just being in a space and creating something from the space, it is a lot less, and there's a lot less space.
there
I
is.
Again,
There
I'm
is.
in my early 50s, and I just remember going out and finding sticks and making bows for being Robin Hood and just creating using that imagination. Those have gone, haven't they? Or
Yeah,
reduced.
they've reduced. There's an argument that we're losing the art of we're losing the art of being bored,
Yes.
and really through boredom comes creativity.
Mm.
So when you're talking about going out and finding a stick and it being Robin Hood or whoever, it's that thing of at some point before, maybe you didn't know what to do. You dug inside of yourself and went, I've got a great idea. I'll do this. And again, it's one of the things I talk a lot about, particularly in schools. Schools are under pressure, and there's a kind of a culture where children have to be proving that they're learning all the time and proving that they're always doing something all the time. And there's very little space given to what I call loafing. Yeah, so I do believe children need to loaf
Mm.
and come up with ideas. And it's not just when an adult walks in, every single they talk about being on task. What does that mean? What does again, it's another kind of parent ego state of being on task, but actually it's healthy for children to not know what to do and
Mm.
to take a moment to dig inside of themselves and go, oh, do you know what? I found 3 stones on the floor. I've got a great idea. I'm going to make a game up with them. But if we're too quick to go, yeah, to intercede, that
Yeah.
game gets lost. And it's very, I do talk a lot about it's the adults that need to engage their curiosity, not children. Children
Mm.
do need to, but more emphasis needs to be on adults switching on their curiosity. What is the puzzle that I see before me? What are children showing me?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess then that helps us to explore a little bit more about who we are then, doesn't it? And what
Absolutely.
we're good at,
Yep.
because we're all going to be good at different things. And
Mm-hmm.
I do a therapy called Theraplay, and often what I'll talk with parents about is this is a space for your little person to practice with me,
Yeah.
because then they can go out into the big world and do it. And you know, and that's about relationships. We're practicing relationships, but I guess in play itself, we're practicing and figuring out lots of other things, aren't we? And some things we're
Yes.
going to be really great at. You might be really good at football, but you're not very good at drawing hopscotch on the ground. And we
Yeah.
find our strengths that way, don't
Yes.
we?
Yes. And I absolutely. And because I talked about play being invention, there's two types of invention going on when we play. What we invent externally. So if I
Yeah.
build a tower, I've invented a tower, but I'm also inventing myself, my own, what I call self-architecture.
Mm-hmm.
All the time, you are self-inventing. Who am
Yeah.
I? Who am I in relation to this person? Who am I in relation to those people over there? Who am I in relation to outside, inside this space? But also, who am I in relation to myself?
Yeah.
What confidence do I feel when I go into this space? And again,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm so passionate about the adult, is what I call the great unlocking, unlocking them, their inner child, and going and being this companion with childhood, because children want our companionship, and they want to know that they're safe, accepted, and loved. And when we have those conditions, now good stuff can happen.
And I guess when you're doing that through play, and then you're getting, it's that back and forth, serve and return, aren't you? You're co-creating with another person, whether it's with an adult, whether it's with a peer, whether it's with an older child.
Yep.
You're co-creating something. So you're learning a lot of life skills, and
Yep.
you are also learning to fail and retry, which I think we've lost a lot of failure really for
Yes.
kids
Yeah, we
in
have.
a way that's safe for them to do it, to fail, because things are very structured, or lots of things are done on an app or a game where you get all that instant gratification, rather than thinking, okay, we've put these two things down for a goalpost, but the wind keeps blowing it away.
Yep.
How are we going to fix this? And it's that, and then you fix it, and it's like, oh, we've no, and that feeling of togetherness to
Yep.
create these things, and you being the key piece that solves there, is really great. And when you're not the key piece, being able to celebrate somebody else's
Yep.
success, because
Yeah.
that we need both, don't we? We need to be able to have our success celebrated, and also to be able to celebrate other people's success. And I
Yes.
think play is
Totally.
a very safe way to do that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it's that thing of, again, I talk a lot about play. Play is a question mark. That's what it is. Play
Mm.
is almost like in a constant flow of seeking the answer. Yeah. Whereas the adult world, as I call them, the adult world are the adults that have congealed themselves against childhood. It's all about the answer. Get the right answer in the quickest amount of time so that I can move you forward because there's a curriculum coming here. Whereas
Mm.
childhood is not like that. Childhood, on the whole, is this rolling question mark. It wants to take its time because it wants to explore. Because actually, in, like you were saying with that example of the goalpost, in doing that, I might also uncover a different way of making the goalpost next time. But if the adult is just get the answer as quickly as possible because you need my approval, even that's being eroded as well. And
Yeah.
we have to make time for play. We have to. It's not a choice. It's
Mm.
not a choice. It's, again, it's like, particularly in the world of 4, 5, 6, and 7-year-olds, we really do need to turn up the dial of play, because unfortunately we are going to reap a whirlwind if we don't.
Yeah.
You'll see it in your own role, Philippa, won't you? More and more children are play deficient.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And
Yeah,
you know,
it's yeah, it's really sad because I think also as a parent and as an adult, you miss out
yeah,
if you don't have that play. There's something delightful, isn't there? And I
yeah,
guess that's what you're saying is you're connecting to your inner child, but there's just such a delight in just being. Is that's what I
yes,
think? It's just being and
hmm
not it's not a knowing. We don't know what's going to happen. We are just being in this moment with these delightful little people,
yeah,
and we are just enjoying our time together, however long that time is, whether it's 10
absolutely.
minutes or an hour or a
Mhm.
whole afternoon. And we miss that when we've got all this structuredness to life, haven't we? Or we're
Yeah.
so busy. Just as we wrap up, what just my on that, what hope do you have? Are you seeing that schools are taking this on board? Are you seeing that they're wanting to do this more?
Do you know what? There is hope. There is, and I think that's because there, like I've said, there's lots of adults are under pressure, but there is a growing movement. Maybe small at the moment, but there is a growing movement of educators who know that play is right for children. There is also a growing number of head teachers who are also recognizing that something needs to shift, and they are doing that internal work again to come away from the unfiltered parental parent ego messages of this is what school should be, and they're disconnecting from that and saying, but what about my unique children? There's much higher need in society with children, a much higher need. And we cannot just keep repeating more and more of here's the pressure to learn for my approval. That is going to end very badly. So there is, I think people are awakening to this idea that things need to change. But to my mind, the one thing where the hope does lie is actually in the children, because they are going to force this change
Yeah,
because they're
yeah.
not going to, in inverted commas, fit. No matter what education policy people
Mhm.
want them to do, they are not going to.
And we can
We're in a
see that,
human
can't
game.
we?
Yeah,
Because the cost of providing special education provisions
yep,
is exponentially increasing. And I just think then that must tell you that if you're providing special education provision, maybe that is the provision kids need.
yeah,
Do you know what I
absolutely.
mean? That they
Yeah.
need something that is not this. So we can see that it's just
hmm
there is this shift that actually mainstream is meeting the needs of less and less children
No,
and young people.
no. And again, that's not the school's fault
Absolutely
necessarily.
not.
It's
No,
really not.
no.
They're doing, I've worked in many schools that are doing everything they can. And they have very well meaning, loving adults who are just doing a fantastic job. But it can't continue because there's going to be more and more.
Mm.
So actually, something does need to change. It really
Yeah.
does. And that is about societal change too. And I do have hope. Absolutely. Because there's no hope. Well, what is there?
No.
But there is hope. Absolutely. There's
Mm.
some brilliant teachers out there and brilliant childminders, fantastic people working PBIs, people like yourselves who are all connected. And we all know, don't we? We all
Mm.
want the same thing. We want this an abundant childhood for every single child. And I do believe along the way, it might sound a bit of a pipe dream, but I do believe that can happen. I do.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
do. And
Yeah.
even children, those, and again, the children that we might say that carry great trauma, play is play is the healing. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. And I do believe play is a healing for society, but
Mm.
maybe that's too hippie for someone. No, but
No, I think
I do
it
believe it
is.
is. Everyone needs play therapy, Philippa. There you go. Look,
Yeah.
they do. They do. They
Yeah.
do.
But I think play gives you the opportunity to connect, doesn't
Yes,
it? It gives
absolutely.
you the opportunity to explore, and
Yep.
it gives you the opportunity to be your be your authentic self in many ways without having to mask.
Yes. And that's all about.
When we allow it to free flow and we're not
Yes.
putting it
Agreed.
into a box. And I agree. I work with lots of schools, and there are some absolutely amazing teachers and
There are
TAs and
incredible.
who are trying in so many ways to filter in play and to support the development of the children that they're working with. And
absolutely, we need more of them. So
Yeah,
if you're out there watching this, playing and advocating for childhood, just keep the message to end is keep playing, keep advocating, because if you don't do it, then no one else is. So hopefully that's a good way to end, Philippa. A nice kind of rallying call around the flag of play. But yeah, that's what we need. We need more play, not less of it.
Perfect. Yeah, that is a great way. I will put a link in the description of the podcast to your website.
Thank you.
So that people can, when they want to find out more about you and what you're doing, they can just click on the link. Okay, so thank you very much, Greg.